Cesarean delivery is not a bad thing. It's not a stigma. It doesn't reduce your worth or your value as a woman. And if anything, it helps to complete the process of the 9 months journey in a very healthy and safe way. My name is Adesumbo Adesha. I'm a consultant gynecologist and obstetrician by training. And I think today I just want to have a conversation with everyone, really, as to what to do during pregnancy. I'm well aware of our indices in this part of the world and how our maternal mortality numbers are still very high. I just thought to share with us on little things that could possibly reduce this impact. When we talk about maternal mortality, we talk about it in different phases, and we talk about the first phase delay, the second phase delay, and the third phase delay. I think my focus today will pretty much be talking about first phase delays and how we could begin to take the steps to reducing the numbers in that aspect. And particularly today, I'll just be focusing on pregnant women and antenatal care and what are the easy things we could do to reduce the complications and the adverse outcomes that are typical or are common, or the regular narratives we hear about the complications and such. And I think I'll start by talking about the basics first. And when a couple becomes pregnant, you begin to ask yourself, what next? And I think it starts with finding the good hospital and the right obstetrician that fits your needs. And I think when that is solved, it pretty much serves as the foundation to everything that occurs throughout your pregnancy process. And so what I mean by that is your job then as a couple who is pregnant is to take time out to find the right hospital for you. And by right hospital, one of the things you probably should be looking out for is proximity to your place of accommodation and of course cost considerations to be sure that you can afford it. And more importantly, you want to find out the hospital that you're receiving antenatal care with have all the necessary specialists and skill sets required to be able to see you through your pregnancy journey. And you want to be sure of the obstetrician, you want to be sure of and it's not just about the obstetrician. There's a team of people that make antenatal labor and delivery a success. And so beyond just the obstetrician, you want to be sure that the hospital has the right nursing staff, they have the pediatrician and anesthesiologist on ground if and when labor and delivery happens. And I think after you've done that, it then becomes very important to attend antenatal care. I know 9 out of 10 times antenatal care may seem pretty much boring or routine, but for us as obstetricians, it gives us an opportunity to be able to pick things early enough and so that we can begin to make steps to correct any things if picked up pretty early. And so I do really recommend that all pregnant women attend antenatal care very regularly as prescribed by their doctors and their hospitals. I would really encourage you not to miss any appointments if possible, because with each appointment you have an opportunity to engage with your obstetrician and begin to discuss, have conversations around many topics that become important along the course of your journey towards giving birth to a healthy child and making sure you yourself are pregnant. The whole essence of a pregnancy, and I tend to tell a lot of my patients this, that it's about a healthy mother and a healthy baby. And that journey starts from antenatal care. And so with each antenatal visit, starting from the nurses, they check your blood pressure, they tend to check your urine for the things we look out for, protein and glucose. And it's at that point, from things as simple as that we begin to pick out any abnormalities, if any. Beyond those routine things, I also tend to say that during antenatal care, when you book at antenatal, there's some basic tests that are done, and even from those basic tests, some things may be picked out that will need closer attention during the course of your antenatal care. And so those things become important as well. And then, of course, we talk about scans. And when we talk about scans, at the very first instance, we tend to do the first scan that tells us, oh, you have a baby, the baby is fine, what the age of the pregnancy is, if you're carrying a single baby, twins, triplets. And so from things as basic as that, one can begin to map out the course of the journey. And we can then take it along those lines. As the pregnancy advances and as it gets to the third trimester, then we begin to pay closer attention, and your visits to the hospital become a little more frequent. And in those frequent visits, you begin to need to have conversations with your obstetrician about what your birth plan is, and what are the things to look out for. One of the things we also focus on and emphasize is a concept we call birth preparedness and complication readiness. I think it's very important for all pregnant women to know the common complications that can arise in pregnancy, and so that you're aware of it. And if you're at home or anywhere and begin to notice any of these things, it's important you identify them for what they are, so they can put a call through to your hospital and they can begin to guide you as to the next steps to take. And when we talk about complication readiness, we talk about things as simple as if you're experiencing any bleeding during pregnancy, or you begin to see the water of your baby during pregnancy, or you're not feeling your baby's movement as much as you used to. And of course, we now begin to talk about another subset of complication things we want people to be aware of, such as sudden headaches, sudden swelling of your legs. You need to begin to flag it to your doctors, but you need to be aware of these things to look out for, so that you know them for what they are, or you recognize them for what they are. Beyond complication readiness, we also talk about complication readiness. We talk about birth preparedness. And birth preparedness just talks about the deliberate steps the couple takes to deciding how the birth is going to happen. I tend to say to a lot of people that in spite of your birth preparedness plans, try not to be as rigid, try not to be very rigid, because sometimes things happen. And I really love the Yoruba adage that talks about ekwewomo after a woman has delivered, because it's a journey that until you've completed it, sometimes you can't predict the course, because things happen. And that brings me back to my very first, or one of my earlier statements, which talked about ensuring you identify a good hospital and that has all the things available to be able to take care of you should any complications arise. Some complications happen suddenly, but the fallout of the complication may not be as disastrous if you're in a hospital that knows what they're doing. And there are tons of good hospitals here in Lagos or any part of the country where anybody is living in. And the onus then falls on every couple to do the assignment of looking for the right hospital that fits your needs. And so when any of these complications arise, because the hospital is well equipped and ready to take care of all those things, then the fallout of the complications are less and less. I would also like to probably emphasize on the need for couples to understand recommendations that come from your obstetrician as regards any of the processes that involve the pregnancy, and maybe more particularly labor and delivery. For instance, I know we're in Nigeria, and I know that a lot of us are concerned about cesarean deliveries, and then there's this ideal of having vaginal births, and which is all well and good, I imagine. But I think I want to emphasize today that beyond what method the baby comes out from, I really want to emphasize the fact that the 9-month journey needs to end with a healthy mother and a healthy baby. The route through which the baby comes, yes, possibly the preferred route is vaginal, but for many reasons that I imagine if you're in a good standard hospital, your doctor would have had the conversation with you, a cesarean delivery becomes important. And I think I need to have that conversation today, or just talk about it a little bit, to say that cesarean delivery is not a bad thing. It's not a stigma. It doesn't reduce your worth or your value as a woman. And if anything, it helps to complete the process of the 9 months journey in a very healthy and safe way. And I have met lots of women who've had vaginal deliveries and have sworn that if they had known otherwise, they'll have had a cesarean delivery, because the vaginal delivery had its complications. And so I want us to look at cesarean delivery versus vaginal delivery in that light. Either of them can have complications, and either of them can end very well. And I think the beauty of it is in being able to listen to your doctors, ask questions. I mean, if your doctor is recommending a particular method of delivery, there are reasons for that, and you should be able to ask questions, and you should understand why. But my emphasis today is to say that a cesarean delivery is by no means a condemnation of you as a woman or of a couple not achieving their birth goal the way they intend for it to come out. Science has done a marvelous thing about making sure that cesarean deliveries these days are safe, with all the necessary materials available, and in the hands of a good surgeon, a cesarean delivery is as safe as it can be. And where you're in a good hospital, I keep emphasizing good hospital, good obstetrician, because I think for me that's the fulcrum of what will impact the outcome of the experiences that anyone will have. And so once you're in a good hospital with a good obstetrician, a cesarean delivery is safe and a vaginal delivery is safe. I think we need to start having those conversations. I also probably want to touch a little bit on analgesia during a vaginal delivery. I know there's a lot of conversation and concerns about epidural analgesia or not. Again, it still relates similar to a cesarean delivery. It's about the skilled hands and being in a safe place. And if those two things are on ground, then having an epidural analgesia during your vaginal delivery process will be safe. And your doctor will have conversations with you as to the whole process, what to expect, what not to expect, possible side effects or not. But I want us to begin to have the conversations about not stereotyping epidural analgesia during labor, not stereotyping cesarean deliveries, not stereotyping and beginning to, stigmatize against women who choose to have deliveries in some ways versus the other. And sometimes I'm not even sure it's so much about choice, but about what is needful for that birth experience to end in a healthy mother and a healthy baby. And then beyond the labor and delivery process, which we all hope as specialists and as the couple in question to end in a very delightful occasion where everybody can then go home and continue the journey. And the journey of which is 6 weeks in the immediate period following delivery, which we call the postpartum period. It's another beautiful period for couples, mothers, and their babies, to then begin to transition from having the baby inside of you to now carrying the baby with you and being sure that everything is done properly. For most environments, you're seen soon after your discharge following delivery, and then there almost always is a 6 weeks post-delivery review. In this visit, you should be able to communicate with your doctors any changes. You should be able to either breastfeed or formula feed as is recommended for each person, and you should be able to have that bonding experience. For some is immediate, for some is delayed. I don't think there's any strict protocol as to which way it should be. And I think I also need to emphasize this here, that we need to change the narrative of expectations. There's no expectation that you must be awake 24 hours a day as a mother because you just had a baby. You've got to tailor your needs to what needs to be done for your family, both for the father, the mother, and the new baby in question. For some people, it's their third time around that they still have toddlers they're dealing with. So there are many changing scenarios, and I want us to not stick to specific stereotypes. I want us to be able to have conversations with our doctors and with our health care professionals to be able to fit our needs to what is important. The postpartum period is as important as the antenatal and the labor and delivery period, and it comes with a lot of emotional changes. It comes with a lot of adaptive changes, and you need to be able to speak with your doctors so that you can transition to this phase well, and not have as minimal, disruptions as is possible in that phase of life. And then I guess as a gynecologist, it would be remiss of me not to talk about contraception or family planning, let me better put it. And in the course of your journey through antenatal, labor, delivery, and postpartum period, you also need to be thinking about family planning. What are your next steps? What is your child spacing plan? So that you can recover properly after a birth. Give yourself the opportunity to evolve and bond with the little human being that is on the scene before we get pregnant for another one.